Good morning and welcome to season 1, episode 1 of Cloud Foundry Weekly. So I'm Nikki Pike and my co-host here with me, my partner in crime, Nick Kuhn.
Hey, how you doing? Great to be here for our very first episode. And we've kind of been talking about this for quite some time, but we really wanted to kind of get together like a weekly show to talk about, Cloud Foundry, and our commercial offering that we'd like to talk about, Tanzu Application Service, formerly known as Pivotal Cloud Foundry from back in the day. So we have a lot of stories around this ecosystem, and we wanna have like a weekly show where we kind of deep dive into different topics around this area. And I think there's a lot of content that we can kind of share out with everyone, and kind of go from there. I guess just to give a little bit of background about myself. So I've been at now what we call VMware by Broadcom for a little over 2.5 years. And before that, I was a platform engineer at a large retailer, running Cloud Foundry and things for quite some time. So we had a pretty well and successful deployment there. So I have experience running it in production. I've also, a lot of experience with other cloud technologies as well. So I like to, see what we can do from a practitioner's perspective as well to bring some of this in. Nikki, do you want to give a little bit of background about, who you are, what you do type of thing for the listeners?
Yeah, so Nikki Pike, I am a staff solutions engineer here at Broadcom. And like Nick, I've been here for almost 3 years, just coming up on 3 years, where I was a customer first, ran Cloud Foundry for a large healthcare company, and loved Taz so much that, I wanted to do this for other customers, not just for mine. So came across, I still think, I haven't been excited about a project with Taz, such as Taz for a long time since I worked on Xbox Live. So really exciting product. And, Nick, we've been talking about this for quite a while, getting on and doing something, especially now that we're starting to see kind of this reemergence of Taz and people starting to get excited about it again. And, we kind of just took the route, got to talking to some partners, which we're fixing to bring in some guests here in a second, but got to talking with them about it, kind of following them. And we kind of just decided to jump in feet first, right? Let's just jump in the deep end of the pool, see how it goes. So, forgive us as we get started, and as things kind of get kicked off, we'll get better as we go. But I think there's a lot of people out there that really want to see what's going on with Cloud Foundry, right? It's a great product. It really works. The purpose of this is just to bring out some of those new features, to talk about where we're going, improvements that are being made, and, answer questions when we get them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think maybe what goes best with Cloud Foundry is some of, the Spring community and Spring applications. So we want to bring on our special guest now and see where we can go from there.
Yeah.
Let's add to the stage.
Hey,
here we go.
It's me.
Hello.
How's it going?
Wow.
What a surprise.
Yeah, we got some friends here with us. Do you want to introduce yourselves? Kind of give a background.
Dan, I'll let you go first. Hi, my name is Dan Vega. I'm a Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom, and I have been a Spring Developer Advocate long before I was getting paid to do so. I've been a big fan of Spring for a long time. I remember the days of manually FTPing files to a server somewhere. I've been around that long. So I've been around. I've been through the CF push days, so I'm excited to talk about that. And yeah, I love my job. I get to go around and talk to developers, talk to customers about everything Spring, whether it's Spring Framework, Spring Boot, or anything in the Spring ecosystem. And we also have a podcast. So I get to sit here and chat with Deshaun every week called Spring Office Hours. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But yeah, excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited for you in this new venture. I think it's going to be a fun show, and I'm excited to be a part of episode 1. So thanks for having me.
Thanks.
My name is Deshaun. I'm a Spring Developer Advocate. I think today is day 809 in this role. I'm on the same team as Dan. I was also a Spring Developer Advocate long before getting paid, and I was also a happy customer of Cloud Foundry when I fell in love with Spring Boot about 10 years ago. And here we are, having a blast, and I'm happy to be here. Jazzed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember
appreciate
that.
you guys being on. I'll be the first to say we're not above, kind of using your star power to help us get kicked off here. So appreciate you guys jumping on. And, as you said, springofficehours.io, everybody needs to go check it out. When we're talking spring and Taz, man, peanut butter and jelly.
Yep. And shout out to Corby and Mia who are chatting up on YouTube. So I have a question for you both, or really for all of us. Now that we kind of mentioned Cloud Foundry and Spring, do you remember your first CF push experience, and what was like that like? Can you describe that?
I do. I would love to tell it.
Go for it.
Mine was the two Andrews. First I was kind of like hearing about, here's what you should be doing and thinking about it, but he didn't really mention Cloud Foundry. But he was talking about all the problems that I was having at the time. And then later, the other Andrew was like, I got invited into this workshop and, hey, we're going to do this Cloud Foundry thing. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And they were going to do the CF push with Spring Music. Mm-hmm. But me being me, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to grab my code because you're it's a demo and you're going to, cook the books and it's going to work, of course. But I'm going to grab my code and I'm going to see if my repository that I was pulling from Subversion, I'm going to see if I can get this thing to CF push. And it worked. And I got a URL. And I was, in the building and I'd already dealt with like the F5 and all the other things. And I'd navigated the years of my experience, here's the buttons that I need to push in order to get something exposed to the rest of the world. But the CF push happened. I got a URL and I looked around and I was like, does everybody understand like what just happened? Like
yeah.
who did the ticket for the F5? Who provisioned the VMs and all the other stuff?
Yeah.
And then I grabbed up my phone. I was like, there's no way this is working. I hit my phone and it was live to the world over my phone. I wasn't just on the VPN, it was over the phone. I was like, what is this? I got to have this. I don't know what happened. So yes, I remember it vividly because there was an audience, right? Of course, I'm a front row guy. There's an audience, hundreds of engineers. And I was done, and I had this app that was it was available to the world, and it was my code. It wasn't the Spring Music. I was blown away. So yes, I remember it vividly.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I've come from a world of like way back in the day, everything was getting FTP to some server, and DevOps. Well, we didn't even call it DevOps then, right? DevOps got so complicated that I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, let me write code. Let me write some front-end code, some back-end code, but don't get me involved in any of that stuff that's going on there. And so for a long time, I just kind of pushed it to the side and let the smart people deal with it, right? So, finally I got back into Spring when Spring Boot first came out. Probably around 2015, I started jumping into it. 2016, I remember I was putting a course together for Udemy on getting started with Spring Boot. And I was like, well, we got to get this into production somehow. How are we going to do this? And there weren't the options that there were today. So, I mean, even today, there's still a considerable amount of options out there, but there's some things that we could do better. But yeah, I remember going, how am I going to get this into production? And I remember the painstaking memories I had of like trying to get stuff in the Java world into production. And then I came across Cloud Foundry, used it just for like a personal project, got it up there, it was working great. And then a few years later, I would be using it again at a Fortune 50 company that was using kind of CF admin to wrangle all these like Cloud Foundry instances. And it's been a pleasure working with it over the years. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. So.
Yeah, awesome.
Reminds me, I was working with a customer and he gave me a quote. So we were working up, they were used to doing their code pushes onto bare metal. We introduced them to Cloud Foundry, and within the first 2 weeks, he gave me a quote that I still use today. He's like, you know what? You will take CF push from my cold dead hands, right? He was a fan within the first week of using it. And like Deshaun said, how you're able to take, you're allowing the developers just to worry about their code. They don't have to worry about anything else. CF push gets it out there, taking it straight to production. If you need it to be, it's one of those things that I think was life changing. I know it was for me. It's why I wanted to come work here.
Yeah, and the Cloud Foundry haiku in chat. Here's my source code written on the cloud for me. I don't care how. And it's amazing how that is still very, very relevant today. And I guess if we go in my first CF push experience, so I guess originally I came from like a VMware VI admin type of background, And back in maybe I want to say 2014, I think maybe 2013. I don't know. It's a while ago.
We
were
pushed
building
to production so many times since then.
Yes, so many times, right? But we're doing this thing called like vCloud Director at the time, and we're building out vApps in vCloud Director, and then using that to do all this manual orchestration of like the web server type experience and VM type of thing. And that was a better experience than what we had today or had at the time. But then I don't. We got somehow one of our executives or somebody got introduced to this Pivotal company, and they're like, no, you need to look at this thing called Cloud Foundry and see a push. It's like, okay, well, whatever. Containers, like what's that? It's before I guess Docker, Kubernetes, really. And so we did a little PSC and pilot, and installed it, and then I was we're sitting I was sitting with one of my colleagues, James, at the time. And we were just okay, so we're gonna do this thing push. I don't even remember what the app was, but we pushed it into our POC prod, and I was like, wow, that was really fast. Like we didn't have to orchestrate this whole VM deployment and get figure out how to copy the files and all these things. So, there's a bunch of these manual steps that we were doing to work with our development team to orchestrate that before. So it was essentially one command and we're done. And then the next command that we I ran was cfscale-i 500. And we spun up 500 instances of that, which was just completely another mind-blowing thing as well. So it's pretty interesting to hear the first experience from every different kind of perspective and that type of thing. So
I'll say mine's a little bit different, right? So I am not a developer. It's one of my taglines, right? You come and ask me, I'm not a developer. So CF Push for me was a little bit different. I look at it from the operations side. When I first came onto the company that got me started, I was, I'd worked at Microsoft for 15 plus years. I was a Microsoft fanboy. Very first thing I did when I show up and they said, hey, we got this thing we want you to help us run called Cloud Foundry. They gave me a Macintosh laptop. I looked at this thing and was like, okay, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? It's not Windows. I don't know it. Took me about 6 months, but once I got into it and started looking at, Cloud Foundry as a whole, using the Linux subsystems, right? And Cloud Foundry is way more than just getting your code out there. It's all the services. And that's what really impressed me was, hey, we can take something like a MySQL database. It no longer takes 3 to 4 weeks or even months to get this spun up. I can get this to my developers in a matter of minutes, right? And have them connected and working. So from an operation standpoint, this was something to me that was truly, dare I say, groundbreaking, right? It was something that really caught my interest that said, wow, this gives developers the ability to not only get their code out, but also connect all the back-end services they want. And they can do it in such a short time frame. They don't have to worry about anything from an operations level, being able to patch everything, all of our services all at once. It was something that was really, really interesting to me. And it's became a passion of mine since then, which leads us to Cloud Foundry Weekly, right? We want to be able to share this. There's a lot of really neat stuff that's going on in the Cloud Foundry world. There's a lot of stuff that's going on with Tanzu Application Service, and the whole point is to bring this out there, right? Let people know what's going on and get them involved again.
Yeah, and one thing that comes to mind is that kind of pre-Cloud Foundry, DevOps was more of a silo, right? DevOps today is very much a collaboration between the developers and between the DevOps teams. Before it was like, here's my code, you deal with it. And then you're like, the DevOps side was like, well, your code's wrong. It's back to you. You deal with it. And now we have this really great kind of symbiotic relationship where we're kind of working together to get things done. So that thing sticks out to me. So.
Yeah, no more sending over war files and like a ticket system to get something deployed.
Oh boy,
sure.
That was fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and that was one of the benefits also from an operational side, right? Is we were able to fully control all that infrastructure. So we were able to cut out, a lot of those tickets to networking team, to database team, right? With it all being on platform, you're able to cut all that stuff out. You make things more efficient. We became kind of a data center within a data center. So it truly, it not only helped the efficiency for the devs, but it also helped the things for the operations guys, because we weren't looking at tickets every 5 minutes, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
just dropped some knowledge. He's like, I did my first vMotion all the way back in 2004. And my first vMotion was actually after my first CF push.
Oh wow. But yeah, it's a very similar experience to Keith too, because I remember the first vMotion. I was just like, wow, we just moved a live VM like to physical different machines, and then it was just amazing. But then like this, it had a very similar feeling seeing like that first vMotion and that first CF push. So great tech. And yeah, from Corby here too.
You got Corby Page pushing out there that your CF push, create service, and bind service all on the same day was just an embarrassment of riches, right? Next world, next level stuff that we're talking about here.
The thing is that right there, like that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is still like an amazing thing. One of the experiences that we have with customers is like, hey, like how long does it take you to create a database? You know, any tiny little MySQL database that you're going to run in production, how long does it take? And, various amounts of days and tickets, et cetera. And I got to do a workshop around, CF and the onboarding, and hey, here's what it's like. And in a workshop, we might have 50 people. And at a customer site, they've got infrastructure, and we had 50 people doing CF create service at the same time, and we were standing up not just a database, but a leader follower pair, like all 50 of them, boom, in minutes. That's still hard.
That's an important case too, right? So when you look at like data services, right, you look at the old way of doing things. Everybody connects to the same database. Well, if you want to make a change or you need to modify the data, right, you got to go through a world of approvals to make sure. Well, data services within Taz kind of brings that microservice architecture into your data services, right? Now I can have my own database. I don't have to worry about some other team messing with my schema or me breaking somebody else's. It's mine alone. And it goes with my application, right? And it doesn't mean we can't push it up to, a larger database or a data lake if we need to, but it really kind of lowers that blast radius for developers when they come in, being able to have those data services out there like that.
And we can get those in a matter of minutes, not weeks or months, right? That's another huge thing, right? For sure. And let's see what else we want to call out here really quickly.
Well, I mean, you want to look at that comment. That's a good way. If you're an operator on Taz and you want to steal business from your IT team, that's a way to do it, right? So,
well, not to steal, but really level up your skills, right?
But like, how many people ran into that? Like, then what am I supposed to do? If we get Cloud Foundry, then what am I supposed to do? How many people ran into that? Like, how many people were so worried about, who's going to provision the VMs and who's going to do the IP management? Like, but now they're getting to do way more valuable things.
Right.
Yeah. Cloud Foundry's still there. Nobody lost a job.
Looking at operator to developer ratios, 300, 500, 800 to 1, right? You can run the whole platform with, minimum amount of people and keep it running and have it production ready. That's awesome. Right.
Yeah.
I enjoy that I get to hang out with Dan, but you guys really brought a community here. We know who the famous people are.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know we were going to be. We brought I'm seeing Bosky in the chat.
Yeah.
Like everybody's here to see you guys. Like I'm feeling a little like, am I in the right room?
Yeah. Well, of course you are.
How did I get in this group?
For sure.
This is awesome.
Yeah. I didn't expect we'd already have 60 people live right now with us. That's for sure. But Bosky also that vMotion and CF push, very mind blowing and magical experiences for sure. Let's see here.
Yeah. I like Jim's comment. Right. It typically I think it starts with Java and Spring, but then like once they see it, I got to work with customers where and now let's do the same thing. We want to do what they're doing, but with .NET. We want to do what they're doing, but with Python. That's typically what works.
Yeah, we got that.
I'd definitely say Spring is first out there, man. But .NET, right? There's
Spring
a
is
true
king.
home for .NET applications. Yep, Spring is king.
Yeah,
but it's followed. We've got a lot of .NET out there, and they're looking for good places to run it, looking to reduce the management, and that's where Taz can come in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this whole concept of build packs, of where you just push your code to this platform and it builds a container for you and detects what language you're using, and you don't have to really even mess with container management. Is I think another pretty valuable thing, right?
Build packs was a thing before Cloud Foundry, and with Heroku they had that concept, and I think it's a thing whether you're on Cloud Foundry or not. I like to say that the container is a new artifact, and don't let friends use Dockerfile. Use build packs. Build packs. They're good.
Nikki, you mentioned something, Taz. We might have some audience here that may not know what Taz is. Can you kind of fill us in?
What's the difference
what
between
is
Cloud
Taz?
Foundry and Taz? What is
Yeah.
Taz?
So, and I'll let Nick give his opinions on this as well, but TAS is short for Tanzu Application Service. So it is the VMware implementation of Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry is an open source product. What VMware's done is they've taken TAS, they've made it a little bit easier to use, right? So open source, you're doing a lot of YAML files, you're doing, Bosch deploys. What we've done is we've taken what we call Operations Manager. We put that as the front end for that. So Operations Manager is your front end and your GUI into Bosch and how you're going to configure Cloud Foundry itself. And it also helps orchestrate through, and there's a couple other things that we put in there. We've got the Apps Manager so that you can have a GUI for all your applications that are out there. We've got, metrics that comes with Taz itself, with Tanzu application itself, so that you can see what your application is running like. Nick, anything you want to add?
No, I think you described, Taz or Tanzu Application Service, our commercial offering of Cloud Foundry, right? So I guess we should call it too, like there's this thing called the Cloud Foundry Foundation, which is this open source, project that's, the platform as a service model, right? So we, VMware or Broadcom or, Tanzu, we are a very, strong contributor to that open source foundation. So, there's a bunch of open source work that's been done out throughout the years. SAP is another really large contributor to the Cloud Foundry Foundation, so definitely want to give a shout out to them as well. So I think it's a very very well matured and maintained open source project and platform. We obviously offer a very commercial offering of that. And another thing too that we haven't really mentioned yet, I guess shout out to Keith. A lot of the thing that makes this possible is this thing called Bosch, which is also part of an open source tool and part of the Cloud Foundry Foundation. But it's really this kind of infrastructure as code superhero or superstar. It's maybe if you combine like Terraform and Ansible and a few other things put together, it kind of gives you that full like infrastructure automation lifecycle management, not just from like day 0 to like day 1,000, where that's where you easily kind of get to that platform engineering experience where we can have just a few platform engineers managing large platforms with thousands or tens of thousands of developers running it. So yeah, we can.
Bosch is kind of the eye in the sky, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Bosch is the eye in the sky. It's what's keeping track of all your applications. It's what's making sure that the right number of applications that you want out there. It's what's, if something goes wrong, it's what self-heals, right? So if it crashes for any reason, Bosch is what's keeping the guardianship over it, making sure it brings it back up the way you want it to. So it's Bosch, huge shout out to Bosch. It's the orchestrator for everything for us.
Yeah, and then I guess too, we should mention, shout out to Tim too. Thank you, Bosch. We all love Bosch. But something coming up here, as part of we're talking about the Cloud Foundry Foundation is we're having Cloud Foundry Day in New York City. If you're not familiar with that, you should go check that out. I guess we could put a link in chat or something here. That's probably a good idea.
I'll work on that.
I'll go ahead and take care of that.
For that. But yeah, so Cloud Foundry Day is happening on May 15th this year in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. So like proper New York City. So that the CFF has secured a location. The CFPs actually just closed for that over the weekend. I have some CFPs I'm waiting to hear back on response. So hopefully I'll be talking. I know, our colleague Michael Cote and I have also submitted to talk there too. So we'll see where we get in terms of our CFP acceptance. But regardless of whether I'm speaking there or not, hopefully I should be there. And if you're listening and you're in the area, if you want to learn more about Cloud Foundry, this will be a great event to try to get in touch with the Cloud Foundry community and ecosystem and contributors. We'll have a lot of people there from VMware Tanzu who build and ship the software.
We got a freeze.
You lost him.
Oh no!
All right.
We had it, but that's okay. That's the cool thing about this platform is he can hop out and he can hop right back in, and the show is still live. Like we're still.
That's right.
So
Well,
All
I'll go ahead and pick up where he left off. So,
All right.
yeah, so we're looking at the Cure in New York, May 15th. So, both Nick and I are going to try to be there. And I think, Nick, we're going to try to do our first remote live stream.
Yes.
I was going to say that sounds like a
from Cloud
perfect
Foundry Day.
opportunity.
So,
Yeah,
did I drop for a second? Or
yeah, you
did.
Okay, all right, yeah, because anyway, sorry, but yes, don't miss Cloud Foundry Day for sure.
Yeah, so check it. Definitely, if you're going to be at Cloud Foundry Day, reach out to us. Maybe we can get you on the show. We do have CF_weekly on Twitter is going to be the account for this show, and then we're also on LinkedIn. But definitely reach out to us because we think that'll be our first. We'll see how our first remote session goes. That should be interesting for us.
Yeah.
Oh man, we were
be stars.
Yeah. We were at what was it? Spring One, Deshaun. Was it Spring One in Vegas last year? And we saw the guys from what podcast is
Virtually speaking.
Virtually speaking.
Yes.
They have everything down. If you ever get to see them live, they had these like Rode mics in like a microphone stand, and they were wireless. And they look like they've been doing this for 20 years. So
it was like
really
a handy dandy inflatable like podcast station. They had a desk and the backdrop, move cameras. Like I think there's some robotics or something.
Yeah,
they had
everything.
everything.
Like 3 cameras.
They had everything. And as soon as they were done,
me feel bad. We're going to be there with like the selfie camera, just try to squeeze everybody in the shot.
Yeah, that was us. I mean, so all I'm saying is you may not get to there yet, but if you need some inspiration, maybe check them out because they seem like they have everything figured out. So
yeah, the virtually speaking crew, they know how to run a podcast. So
yeah.
I've been listening to that for years. So that's another shout out. If you want to learn more about the VMware ecosystem, listen to their podcast.
Absolutely,
for sure. But those yes, they are the probably prime example, like what we should aspire to be, for sure.
We're still learning.
What do we got in the wings here, Nick? I know we're going to be doing some sessions just to try to get everybody excited. We're going to be talking about GenAI on Taz, right? So AI ML is coming to Taz. Postgres is coming to Taz. That's going to be one of our topics. We're going to be doing, hopefully some crossovers with Deshaun and Dan on Spring and what all Spring brings to the table, along with some other tools that work on Cloud Foundry that maybe you never even heard of. So what else we got planned up?
So I think hopefully next week we can do the Gen AI session for sure, because that's going to be I'm really excited about that. So if
kind of your baby, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, a little bit. We have two really interesting stories there around Spring AI. Like if you're building Spring apps and when it has that easy AI button with Spring AI, and then we can have a nice platform for you to land that on and not have to worry about potentially exposing your data by going to like a third party. You can have a kind of private AI experience as well. So
that sounds like a smart idea.
Yeah, I mean a lot of people have thought so as well too. Yeah, very much.
And Nick's being a little coy here, right? So a shout out to Nick and team. This was this won the hackathon at VMware Explore this year, right? So
nice.
Good project. I mean, not only is it something that's exciting that people are interested in, but it was the winner of hackathon this year. So
such a good idea.
Yeah, I have to defer. Thanks all the credit to Long Win, who was like the lead engineer behind all this. But yeah, we did take this idea to the VMware Explore hackathon in Vegas, and then now we're a product in beta with customers using it and things like that. So it's a pretty cool story within just a few months where we are. But yeah.
Well, and it's proof, right? If you've got a good idea, bring it up. It's something that can turn into a product like this did, right? So, hopefully through this channel, there's a lot of smart people out there. Maybe somebody brings us the next tile or the next service that we're going to incorporate, right? Bring something to us and tell us what you think. Maybe it's something we can get incorporated.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think too, I would love to try to get some of the Tanzu Vanguards incorporated in this channel. And here's some, if you're listening, here's some experiences directly from the Cloud Foundry user base, because we have some really, really interesting stories out there from what has been done and what continues to be done with Cloud Foundry that we should probably just talk about more, just because maybe it's I I guess to them may be boring because it's been like that for the past few years, but it's still an incredible. Some of these stories are incredible to hear, where just the scale and the amount of critical infrastructure running on Cloud Foundry is definitely something to worth calling out and noting how reliable and resilient it is for sure.
Yeah, I think, when we look at Cloud Foundry, it's one of those things that just works, right? So, people are doing amazing things that they're not even, they're not advertising out. We look at some companies that are running 150,000 plus AIs, right? They're running their whole infrastructure, their whole business on Cloud Foundry. And it doesn't get the kind of attention it needs because, hey, it's Cloud Foundry. It just works, right?
Yeah.
But I think we do need to try to get some of those people in, have them talk about what they're doing, how it affects their business, because Cloud Foundry can make a heck of a difference, not only on a bottom line, but also just how fast you can get your stuff out there. And let's be honest, applications to market, that's where you win, right? If you're slow bringing stuff in, you're going to lose the race. Applications are eating the world, so you got to get yours out there first and get it fed.
And even just to double click on that, we got a quote from Jim here. We're running 200,000 plus containers on Cloud Foundry, and with just
awesome.
a few amount of people. So it's very it's a very, very great story. So yeah, and then I guess definitely too on the GenAI piece, GenAI for Taz. That's our name of the product, and we will definitely have a session on that next week. So please stay tuned. Keep this time slot, reserved in your calendar for that. Let's see. Do we want to talk about anything else?
Yeah, I thought everything was happening on Kubernetes.
Oh, well, oh boy.
I thought it was Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Can I do all the things with Cloud Foundry on Kubernetes?
So one thing I do want to do, I've had to correct a lot of people on this, is they use the word Kubernetes to mean containers, right? Well, we want to move our stuff to Kubernetes. Hey, man, you're on Taz. You're already on containers, right? That's one thing that I constantly have to correct people on. With Taz, you are running containers. Now you're running it on guarding versus Kubernetes, but it's still an OCI compliant container, right?
Yeah.
I've often joked that if Taz would have had the foresight to say, call Garden Kubernetes with an A, people would probably be a lot more open to looking at Kubernetes. But it's the new shiny. And, there are, in my opinion, use cases out there for Kubernetes and K8s and what you want to do. But I always like to kind of give the analogy, it's Apple versus Android, right? So if you want the easy button, you want to know that things just work, Taz is your place to go. If you really want to tinker around and you want to customize and you want to bring in the newest and latest in OSS software, that's where Kubernetes comes in. But, there's a trade-off there, right? So you got the easy button where Bosch kind of takes care of a lot of things for you versus having to do a lot more manual work, right? So, there's pros and cons to both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
we're not going to shy away from the hard topics here.
We're not going to shy away from the hard topic.
It really kind of boils down to developer experience too, right? In my opinion. So you can, you could run, and it's, your app on many different things now these days, this day and age. There's a lot of things out there you can run it on, but it's really about that time to production and how easy it is. And really just getting there's a diagram that, that was built around that use case of CF push versus, let's say, the legacy web server days. And there are a lot of people still out there that are still, sending code and still don't have a kind of automated application deployment out there too. So that's another story. If you haven't really gone down the modernization journey, that's just something to keep in mind, that we have a really good story for that. But if you take that up, if you look at the kind of Venn diagram of the overlap of, like, if I go do CF push and I want to run do that on Kubernetes, there are still many things you have to do just to make that Kubernetes deployment work. Like, you need to wire it up to see if give it a service, build a container, wire that up. Are you going to do an ingress controller? Are you going to have a certificate wired up? How are you going to do logging or monitoring or horizontal pod auto scaling? It's not an easy button in Kubernetes either. So, and I feel like the more people experiment with Kubernetes, the more they realize it's just a lot harder than what it seems like.
That's why
down the road, right?
That's why we're here, because
exactly.
We're listening and we know that it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be. But That's the same way it is with all the developers. We didn't do
Yeah.
it because it was going to be easy, because we thought it was going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do appreciate Deshaun coming out with a question, just trying to get us fired right off the bat.
Oh,
Asking
yeah.
that question, but I'll share another customer quote that I sometimes use. We were working on something with Taz that it was a new feature. I won't even say a new feature; it was a new concept that we were trying to get done on Taz, and we couldn't make it work exactly the way they wanted to. But I gave him a workaround. I said, "Hey, here's a workaround. It's not pretty, but it'll work." He's like, look, if I wanted to do things hard way, I'd go to Kubernetes, right? So that was the statement that he made. I've thrown that out there a few times. Kubernetes is getting easier. It's that's one of the things, and we could probably even do a little session on what VMware is doing with that. But Kubernetes is getting easier. But when it comes to pure simplicity, nothing beats Taz today.
Yeah, and then I would think too, like I feel like generally the industry, like, we are in a new hype cycle, right? The hype cycle is things like generative AI. And I think more and more people care about the application outcome versus like what engine they're running or type of thing. So they want an outcome like, can I get to production? Can I go build this new chatbot thing really quickly to like compete with my competitor versus I need to, handcraft my own DIY Kubernetes story type of thing. So yeah. And then also too, like, it's a lot, Cloud Foundry is a lot more than just an app runtime. We have that whole service binding construct, that whole database, messaging, middleware, all as a service that doesn't really kind of equate in that Kubernetes land as much either. So
yeah, I mean, logging, something as simple as logging, right? Built into the platform. All you got to do is output, right? You don't have to build a locking mechanism around. You don't have to pre-wire in for metrics if you want to use, app metrics and that stuff. So when we talk about Taz, it is truly a one-stop shop platform, right? Now, if you're one of those customers that wants to use, the new OSS widget A that just came out, it may not be on Taz, right? What we put into Taz from a service perspective, and again, Tanzu application service and the services that come into Cloud Foundry in itself are things that have been tested. We know they work. We know that they're easy to use. We're always taking requests from customers to say, hey, this is something that we really want. Can we look at getting this in? We're talking to partners, on a weekly basis about what we can do to get products into Taz. So, you got to, again, kind of take that Apple approach here to say, we want to make sure that it works. We may not be the absolute first to market with a new service, but when it comes out, we're going to make sure that it works right for you the first time out and you're not having to fiddle with it.
I love that.
All of this fun
tons of
that we've been enjoying for years, and
yes,
it just hasn't got the marketing. But what else hasn't gotten the marketing? The Cat 5, Cat 6 wires that I use, the rack that I have.
Yeah.
I'm not marketing that either because it just works.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to change that, Deshaun, right? That whole point. We're going to get the word out, right? You're talking to a true fanboy when it comes to Cloud Foundry. So hopefully that's what this show will do, is get people. We're welcome to questions. If there's certain subjects that you want to talk out, reach out to us on Twitter at CF_weekly. Reach out to us on LinkedIn at Cloud Foundry Weekly. Hopefully everybody's going to be looking. We're going to have a landing for all of these sessions on the YouTube channel, Cloud Foundry Weekly. So, come to us. We're eager to take questions. We're eager to get people on. If you've got a story, let us know. And Deshaun, Dan, I'm sure this ain't the last time we're going to see you.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope not.
Are we going to do a demo today? Is there a demo that we're doing, or?
Not today.
No demo.
Today's introductions.
Do you want to do a demo? What do you want to do?
I like demos.
Okay.
Let me see. Like, you talk amongst yourself. Let me see if I got a demo here.
Okay.
Since you're a Cloud Foundry.
Yeah. I mean, I could start wiring up something as well here. Just let me know.
This is what I love about this format. You never know what the hell's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
At any point in time, my dog's going to come jump up on the screen and he's going to say hi to everybody.
I got two kids ready to run in at some point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Right. Jim Basler saying CF push, CF push, CF push.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So, well, let's do that real quick. We talked a lot about it. Deshaun, do you want to take the honors, or what?
No,
what do you
do it. I'm gonna kick off something in the background, and
okay.
I'll come back. But you do your thing. Mine takes a little while, and I don't know if we have all the time.
All right. Yeah, I should have prepared for this. My apologies.
This is a good comment from Mbu, right? So CF equals thousands of lines of YAML and K8s. That's true. right?
Mm-hmm.
That wall of YAML is something that you don't see. The manifest is about the most YAML I ever see in an application, and we're talking 6 lines, 8 lines maybe, and you don't even have to do that if you don't want to.
I need to re-log in.
Oh, yes. All right. I should be okay.
Well, if you're going to tease us with a demo, you should have had one up and ready, Deshaun.
I should have.
All right. Let me. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Hold on. I should probably. Hold on. I need to authenticate to my. Here.
And everybody wish Dan Vega goodwill. Hope he gets better. He came on the show not feeling too good today, so appreciate you showing up, Dan, and hopefully
I can't miss the first episode. There's no way. So
yeah,
I had to be there.
Yes, very much appreciated, for sure.
Fantastic. So what I'm doing is I'm going to deploy some stuff. And the way it works is I have a repository, and that I don't really have to do anything. I do a CF push, all the compilation, running a test, and building of the container, that all happens on the platform. So I don't really have to do anything. My entry into Nick's Cloud Foundry is just my code. Here's my code running in the cloud for me. My demo goes a little bit deeper because we've got stuff that's been working, and I'm a Spring guy, and I don't want you to run Java 8. I don't want you to be on the old code. I want you to be on the latest, greatest version of Spring Boot. So the demo that I'm running in the background is pulling an old version of code, and it's doing an upgrade. But I'm going to deploy multiple versions here in just a sec. The idea is there's a really good place to run your Spring workloads. It's called Tanzu, Cloud Foundry. This is what we're doing. And it's not that difficult. I don't have to worry about things as a developer.
You're not even CF pushing, are you? You're just Git committing.
Yeah, they're very.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's my preferred workflow. Keep me far away from all that stuff. I let the smart people deal with it. Let me commit my code and have something kind of kick off from that.
All right, yeah. I will. I can. How about this? Let me show CF push, and then maybe Deshaun, you can show your kind of Git style workflow.
Yeah, you do your thing. I'm doing some CF push in the background too.
Okay. Share screen.
Here we go. Were we prepared, Nick? Do we know how to do this?
I believe so. Hopefully.
You might want to change the layout there. Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that.
Alrighty, so I can see my screen on my other window.
I can see it.
This is awesome. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger because it looks tiny, right? All right. Woo. So I'm okay. Is that readable? All right. So I'm in my favorite. We talked about Spring Music earlier. We use this a lot for demos still. It's an app that's really stood the test of time, but it's a Spring Boot application, right? And I'm pretending like I'm a developer. I'm not a developer, but let's clear out my terminal here. I need to get into this directory, right? So I am in a directory. I've got some source code. I've got this thing called a manifest YAML, right? Which is just essentially telling Cloud Foundry how to deploy the application, like a name, right? So I, added -cf weekly. And this is kind of a teaser for next week too. So we're using a heavily modified version of Spring Music. If you've seen Spring Music before, you'll notice it looks a little bit different. But now I just want to go to production. So let's just let's type CF push, right? If I can type. And then so that's it, right? The path to production has started. I'm uploading my application to my Cloud Foundry Foundation. It's gonna upload that my compiled jar file, my compiled Java code essentially, and you'll see once that starts processing through, the Java build pack process will start kicking off. So we start to see a little bit of that coming in here. It's detected it's a Java app, so it's the Java build pack process is firing up, right? It's building that container for me. It's taking my jar file, it's making a container. It's doing all the best practice, like, JDK memory calculator. It's wiring certificates in. So I didn't really have to do any of that. So that's pretty cool, right? And then now it's gonna start, pushing that into the platform, and then I'll get a route where I can just, access that application, similar to like, now this I won't be able to hit this on my phone because this is actually running in my home lab or data center, as some people now call it, just based on the amount of gear and power I consume. But anyway, so it's ready to go. So if we do like a CF apps, we can see that we have this application running, and we have a route too. So let me get out of here.
So one thing to note when we were looking at that Java build pack, so like you said, you didn't have to think about the calculator. You didn't have to think about all that stuff. It does happen for you automatically. But it doesn't mean that you don't have options. You can go in there and tune that application and do some of your JVM properties that you want in that application. So you've got your options. You can tune it if you want to through a little bit of code, or you can just let the foundation itself deploy it for you. So don't want you thinking that you didn't want people thinking that you didn't have the chance.
The manifest YAML, you didn't have to have that. It'll give you a name. It'll give you defaults. Because here's the thing: the build packs, I can have a pack of build packs. I can have multiple build packs. So whether I'm pushing Java or .NET, I'm just doing CF push. And it looks at the source code. It says, oh, I see you've got pom.xml. I know to use Maven. And that's how it's building. But it could be Maven, it could be Gradle, it could be .NET, it could be Python, all in the same build pack. So it's the same path to production. You're getting the same best practices built into the build pack. So you don't have hundreds or thousands of Docker file running around wild.
And I'm guessing
and you
because
still have the
it's just a build
flexibility
pack,
to kind of, sorry, go
I'm
ahead,
guessing
Dan.
because it's just a build pack, we could probably build a native image from there too as well, Deshaun.
Well, I'm ready to take over the screen because this is the cool thing. Here, let me add my screen. Mine's wrapping up here. I will share this screen.
Do I need to turn it off, or can you take over?
So you'll want to remove yours on the bottom, say remove from screen, and then you'll add mine. And mine's happening right now. So what I've done in this little bit of time is I deployed a Spring Boot app with Java 8 and Spring Boot 2.6. And then I did an upgrade. I ran a little cheat code using Open Rewrite, and I upgraded it to Spring Boot 3.2.3. And I'm running Java 21. But because I'm on Spring Boot 3, I built a native image. So I did the AOT processing, I built a native image, and I'm delivering as a binary build pack. So I've got all of these options. Right? If you're running Cloud Foundry today, and you've got these workloads that you've been supporting for years, and the lights are on and everything's current and patched and secure. If you've been doing that and you're like, hey, now that I've got 200,000 of these applications, maybe not all of them need all the benefits of the JVM. Maybe some of them scale up and down a little bit differently or more often, and we want a little bit faster startup time. So I gave them the AOT processing, the native image, to give the benefit of some of those things, a faster startup time, a smaller footprint. And for a Cloud Foundry foundation, we can get some benefit of that. So right now I'm pushing up a binary build pack with that native image that I created. In just a second, we're going to kind of see like a comparison of, I did all these pushes here just in the last second or last couple of minutes. And and we're going to be able to look at like, what's the difference? The cool thing is it was the same CF push command. The other cool thing,
and there you go, folks. Just like that, we skipped right into episode 6 from episode 1. Right? So again, you never know what's going to happen with Deshaun, right?
Yeah. So the demo kind of shows, we didn't need to show it here. It's like, hey, how long it took to start up when it was Java 8 and 2.6. But I took all of these applications that are up here that I built locally, and then I pushed them. So the Java 8 is 194 megs. Just by upgrading to Java 21 and Spring Boot 3.2, the same application, it's got a smaller footprint. But then here I did the native image as a binary build pack, and there's a massive savings here. So that's ballpark, right? 25% of what it was to start.
Wow.
So, when you're thinking about foundations and how much you can reduce the number of Diego cells, right? There's a massive savings here on the footprint that your apps are running, and you've got this option to run on Cloud Foundry.
That is
and that's a key point.
Yeah.
Key point, right? If customers say, "Hey, I need to increase my capacity," number one answer: upgrade to Spring Boot 3, right? Spring Boot 3 Plus.
Boom.
The same thing goes when you're looking at. I mean, look at the startup time on that on the native image, right? If you're running a lot of AIs, here's the potential just by upgrading and go to native. Can you reduce that AI count? Maybe, maybe not, based on the performance.
AI
But
in this
you're
case
definitely going to have
app instance.
Application instance.
application
Yeah.
instance, right? So, but at the same thing, if you need to auto scale, how quickly can you auto scale with the native image compared? It may not seem like 1 second is a whole lot of time, but it can be when you're getting that rush. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the overall reduced memory footprint too will help out in scaling as well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. Deshaun or Dan, do you guys want to give a little kind of shout out to kind of like you've been doing a lot of work in the Spring community about upgrading and making sure, there's been a lot of end of kind of life with some of the older versions of Spring, and you talked about just doing an upgrade here. So kind of want to give a plug for what you're all doing with the Spring community.
That's my thing. So we have this concept of sweet and sour, right? Dan, Cora, and Josh, they go and they talk at conferences and they put out great content and videos on all the amazing things you can do with the latest versions of Spring. And sometimes there's a little sour feeling like, hey, we're running Spring Boot 2.6 and we can't do that. So I try to help customers upgrade, right? That's the main thing, is I want to help you get on the latest version. And when you've got a platform like Cloud Foundry, you've got the best place to run your Spring workloads. So that's what we do. And that's it. There's real nothing special there, but there's like a commercial support window and there's an OSS support window. It really hasn't changed. It's going to continue to go forward. There's a new version of Java every 6 months. There's a new version of Spring Boot every 6 months and a new Spring framework every year. So this is what we do.
Yeah. And we're just trying to help customers get to that point where it's like, oh, there's a new version out. We don't want to have to upgrade from Java 8 and Spring 2.x. Like, try to stay current with the new, some kind of latest version of Java. Try to stay current with whatever the latest versions of Spring. So you don't ever get into this problem where you have to upgrade 10 versions of Java and 10 versions of Spring Boot, right? Because we are no longer in that long release cycle. We are every 6 months. Spring Boot is every 6 months. Spring Framework is every year. We want to try to keep everyone up to date on the latest and greatest, not only for performance and security reasons, but all the cool things that are happening in the space, right? All we get to go out and talk about all the new features in Spring, and we talk about dot releases. 3.1 was a dot release, and there were so many cool things in it. 3.2 was a dot release, and we got support for virtual threads and the new client abstractions. So we want to make sure our developers, our customers are able to take advantage of those new features. And so that's why we're out there passionately pushing customers to stay up to date.
We're here to help.
Well, and I would say, going back to that question that Deshaun said about, hey, we're on 2.6.7. Why do I need to upgrade? My app's working fine, right? One of the first questions I would ask somebody is, how much time are you spending on CVE remediation? And I would be absolutely, I'm surprised.
I just happen to have
I'm surprised.
A Spring health assessment sitting here for that.
How many people come back and say they're not, right? We're not really looking at it. Our code's just running. Well, we've got tools out there to let you know that you need to.
When I come
CVEs
with the demo,
exist.
I come all the way. So this first version of Spring Boot 2.6 running on Java 8, this is what that report looks like. This is what your CISO is getting. They're getting a report here. They know that there's vulnerabilities in Spring Boot 2.6, but we upgraded it. And we ran another health assessment report, and here's what it looks like. So now that you're on Spring Boot 3.2.3, this is the quiz time. Which one do you want your CISO to get? This one or this one? Right? In just minutes, this is the way we want you to go forward. The way that you're maintaining your software, this is how we want you to go forward. When you got a platform that takes care of all the platform concerns, you can do these things. You have time to focus on keeping your apps that are running on your platform current and updated and patched and secure going forward. And if you're paying attention, you can automate some of these things. We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah,
and I desperately want to ask you about that cheat code you talked about, but I don't want to give away all of the future episodes we're going to play with you guys. So, you're going to have to come back to learn about that cheat code. Yep.
As my good friend Nate said, if you went to the airport and the pilot said, "Hey, this airplane's been running fine. We didn't do any maintenance on it this week because it just works." Would you be okay with that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's only 150 potential issues with this plane that we haven't remediated in 5 years.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, thank you.
One other thing I want to point out, because I think Bits and Bots may have been the only person that caught it, but with Nick's demo there, he was really going after the Swiftie crowd, right? The Taylor Swift crowd, trying to bring them in. So Bits and Bots caught it, but we did get a chance to see the Taylor Swift demo, but we'll get that next week when we go on GenAI.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to learn about Taylor Swift, Cloud Foundry, and generative AI, please attend next week for sure.
I didn't know you were a Swiftie, Nick.
Well, I guess I'll chalk that up to Amelia from back in the day. We're in the hackathon days, and she really likes Taylor Swift, so we just went with that, and then we just kind of expanded upon that use case of Taylor Swift. And
I have three girls in the house. I absolutely am.
Yeah, and she does wonders for the NFL, so can't hurt at this point, right? So
yeah, I mean,
for all those people that hadn't even heard of the National Football League before Taylor Swift. Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, I think we're coming up on time. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed the first episode. I mean, this went way better than I thought it was going to for our first episode. So, Deshaun, Dan, I appreciate it.
And everybody
Nick,
in the audience.
Parting words?
Yes, thank you.
Everybody in the audience. Thank you. We had really good comments coming back and got to post some good stuff coming from people. So looking forward to next time.
So 55 minutes in, and we still have 82 people live. So that's amazing for a first time.
I'm not jealous.
No, yeah. Well, I definitely think we have Dan and Deshaun to thank for some of our audience for sure. So we really appreciate y'all coming on. And we will be we will be taking the audio version of this and then hosting it on cloudfoundryweekly.com on like your traditional podcast format. So if you're looking for something to listen like while you're driving or sitting in an office or doing whatever, we'll be having a podcast variant of this as well. So keep that in mind too.
But I mean, you're going to miss all the pretty faces. So if you're just listening to the podcast, you're going to miss all the pretty faces. So
but it's another avenue for folks who want to go for there. So and we'll do our best to explain visually what's happening too as we go out. But just keep that in mind, and we'll be back next week with generative AI and Taz and not actually Taylor Swift here, but we'll be talking about some Taylor Swift code for sure. So. Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for everyone in the audience and all the questions. We had a great first session here. Any other comments before we end? No?
CF push.
CF push.
CF push.
CF push.
Take CF push from my cold dead hands.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, folks. End the stream.
Everybody have a good week. See y'all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.